I arrived at Marigold Cafe 5 minutes early, anticipation fluttering in my chest like butterfly wings. The bell above the door chimed as I stepped inside, and the comforting bustle of mid-morning brunch greeted me, simmering espresso machines, cinnamon-swirled air, sunlight pooling in golden rectangles across worn wooden tables. I spotted her at the far corner, already perched on a turquoise velvet banquette. Elena, my oldest friend, hair a tousled halo of honey-brown curls, fingers drumming absent-mindedly on the table. I waved, heart lifting. Between us stood years of sunrise coffees, shared dreams, and late-night texts. I slid onto the seat opposite her, brushing the fringe of the vintage menu. She looked up, eyes widening, then narrowed. "Hey," I began, offering my most genuine smile. "You look great." She blinked once, twice, then folded her arms. "Let's cut to the chase. I'm interviewing for that senior design role at Astra Creative next week." I felt a thrill. Astra was the dream company, the one whose billboards I'd studied in art school, whose branding I'd admired on every subway ride. "That's amazing, Elena. You'll nail it." She set the menu aside, gaze sharpening. "Before that, we need to talk about you." Her tone was clinical, as though diagnosing a patient. I blinked, puzzled. "Me?" She leaned forward. "At that panel last month, when you spoke about your little side project, that eco-sustainable tote line, I was literally falling asleep. You know how some lectures are just forgettable? Yours was one of those." The word forgettable landed in my chest like a rogue piano key. I swallowed, blinking. "Sorry, what?" I managed. She held up a slender finger. "Do not interrupt. I need closure." Her eyes bored into me. "You are boring, befuddling, and let's be honest, unmemorable. I spent the whole bus ride home listing other panelists. But you faded." A bead of heat traveled down my neck. I forced my voice even. "You think I'm boring?" She shrugged. "Realistic. You have potential, if you leaned into it. But you sit on the sidelines, while everyone else throws shapes." Her words ricocheted through me. My hands, draped on the table, felt suddenly heavy. "That's harsh." She looked pleased, as though she'd performed a necessary surgery. "I'm trying to toughen you up. Consider this a wake-up call." "Great," I said softly, voice trembling. "Thanks." The waitress arrived then, tall auburn braids swinging like a pendulum. She placed 2 steaming lattes in front of us, the milk foam crowned with fern leaf art. The cafe's warmth seeped into my hands, grounding me as I gathered my thoughts. Elena eyed the latte art and sniffed, unimpressed. "You know, if you actually did something outrageous, like risk your savings to open a micro studio, or survive a media scandal, people would pay attention. But your line? It's nice, it's quaint, it's forgettable." I stared at my coffee cup, drawing imaginary circles in the froth. Every part of me whispered to stand up, walk away, but 5 years of shared history kept me pinned. "Maybe I don't want outrageous. Maybe I want steady growth." She smirked. "Steady is a nice way of saying tepid." A pang of anger pricked me. "And you think you're the measure of charisma?" I closed my eyes, steadying my voice. "You didn't even pay attention to my story last month, but you made sure to judge me for it." She sipped her latte, eyes unflinching. "I'm honest, not another word." I took a breath, slid off the banquette, and headed to the counter to pay. The tension in my shoulders coiled with disappointment. My best friend, the one who'd cheered me on through every pitch and prototype, now wrote me off as unmemorable. Outside, the city hummed with spring's promise, magnolia blossoms unspooling, traffic lights blinking in emerald arcs. I wandered without direction, the cafe's jazz piano drifting behind me as a dull echo. My phone buzzed, a calendar invite from Astra Creative. Final interview for senior designer, 2 p.m. Wednesday. My pulse fluttered. Elation and dread tangled, Elena's scathing critique still stung, but this was my shot. The narrow hallway of cynicism she'd planted cracked open, letting hope seep in. I slid into a nearby park bench, the sun warming the back of my neck. My reusable tote line, Eco Thread, had landed me first-round calls, now a face-to-face finale. I pictured their whiteboard walls, the sleek glass offices, a world that had dismissed me as nice but safe, now about to judge me in person. I opened my email to review the interview prep guide, then the phone rang. Elena's name on the screen. I stared, debating. Could I face her again so soon? I let it go to voicemail. At home that evening, I practiced for hours before the mirror. Answers to describe your signature design process. How do you handle creative blocks? Tell us about a time you led a team. I sketched potential logos on scrap paper, rehearsed my portman's barrier pitch, and tried to inject a spark of my own flamboyance, a story of selling out that first market stall in record time, the thrill of my first viral TikTok video, unveiling my earth-friendly canvas bags. Still, I couldn't shake Elena's verdict of forgettable. I wondered, was she right? Was my story too gentle, too well-mannered to make a mark? I flicked open my laptop and scrolled through Instagram messages. Heartwarming thank yous from eco-activists. Messages from customers sharing photos with their eco-thread totes. A DM from a young designer. Your line inspired me to start my own. Thank you. I paused, letting that sink in. Perhaps impact wasn't about flash or drama. Maybe it was about resonance. Those quiet, shared moments where someone said, "I've seen your work and it spoke to me." Wednesday, 1:45 p.m., I stood outside Astra Creative's polished glass doors, heart hammering like a snare drum. I smoothed my charcoal blazer, adjusted my silk scarf, and inhaled deeply. The receptionist smiled and ushered me in, and moments later I sat across a slate-faced panel, the creative director, the head of brand, and two senior designers whose portfolios I'd studied. They launched in. "Thanks for coming, Alexandra," said the director, a silver-haired woman with a sharp bob. "Your credentials are impressive, but tell us why EcoThread? Why canvas totes in a saturated market?" I leaned forward, voice calm but animated. "Because every bag tells a story. Mine began when I watched a river turn brown from pollution. I designed my first tote using recycled fabric to remind people that choices matter. When someone carries my bag, they declare they stand for sustainability. That's the narrative I'm passionate about shaping at Astra. Brands that deliver purpose, not just products." Heads nodded. They flipped through my portfolio, images of market stalls, workshops in community centers, bespoke sacks adorned with local artists' prints. I talked them through the EcoThread story, the midnight coding of my Shopify store, the Instagram campaign halted by shadow bans, the partnership that fell through, the nights I sold out of stock by phone orders alone. The tension in my chest eased with each anecdote. Here was a room of strangers weighing me up not on a single brunch encounter, but on the tapestry of my work, my values, and my resilience. A question landed soft. Describe a time you faced brand-killing feedback, and how you responded. My mind flashed to Elena's words. I paused, then spoke. "Last month, a dear friend told me my work was forgettable. I could have let that destroy my confidence. Instead, I listened to my customers, to the messages telling me I'd inspired them to act. That feedback, harsh as it was, helped me refine my story to what truly matters, impact over applause." The director leaned back, gaze steady. "That's refreshing honesty. Thank you." An hour later, I exited the office blinking into the sun. I checked my phone, a calendar update. Astra Creative, final round feedback at 5 p.m. No rejection, no praise, just the next step. I smiled, unburdened by a friend's old verdict. I realized two truths. One, harsh criticism can sting like a lash, but it can't erase the substance of your impact. Two, inspiration often flows quietly, unseen by those seeking only spectacle. I slipped on my EcoThread toot, its woven fibers stamped with tiny leaves, and walked down the boulevard, humming a soft tune. Somewhere, Elena was listing me as her inspiration during her own job interview. I didn't know where or how, but I sensed the irony unfolding. The friend who'd called me forgettable would soon find herself echoing words I once thought I'd lost. And as I stepped into the bustling afternoon, I felt the promise of part two, the story of how the brunch jabber would become proof that substance, not flash, endures. I nearly dropped my phone when it buzzed with Elena's name late that afternoon. My stroll had carried me down sun-dappled sidewalks, my EcoThread tote swinging at my side, confidence humming in every step. I fished out the phone and answered, heart fluttering with both excitement and a sliver of nerves. "Alex? Hey." Her voice was softer than that clinical tone at brunch, a little unsteady but sincerely warm. "Elena," I sank onto a bench in front of a row of cherry blossoms. "How did the interview go?" A pause, then a deep breath. "Good. Really good." She sounded almost breathless. "They offered me the role." My chest swelled. "That's incredible. Congratulations." I doubled over, capturing my joy in a laugh. "I knew you'd crush it." She chuckled, but then hesitation. "There's more. When they asked, 'Who inspires you?' I named you." I told them how your relentless commitment to sustainability and design taught me that impact matters more than flash. I said your story, your stoicism after that permit mishap, your midnight tireless work ethic, inspired me to push beyond comfort zones. I blinked, stunned laughter bubbling up. You did? You actually said me? Her sigh carried relief. I did, and they leaned in, asked me to expand. I told them how you collected every scrap of feedback, good or bad, and used it to refine your brand. I said I learned from you that forgettable feedback can be fuel for something unforgettable. My throat tightened. Elena, that means so much. Thank you, she replied, for showing me how to weather storms, how to find grace in micro victories. I didn't know how to express it at brunch. I cut in gently. Brunch was a moment you were trying to push me to take bigger swings. And honestly, I needed it. She laughed. I definitely oversold the critique. Then quieter. Can we meet? Tonight? I want to apologize properly and celebrate. I glanced at the cherry petals drifting down. Absolutely. Marigold? Same table? 7 p.m.? See you then. I hung up, a grin so wide I worried my face would cramp. Elena, my old friend, had elevated me from forgettable to inspirational in one brave moment, and she landed her dream job because of it. That evening, the Marigold Cafe felt transformed. The same sunlight slanted through the windows, but now it carried the promise of reconciliation. I spotted Elena hurrying in at 6:55, cheeks flushed, clutching a leather portfolio. She slid onto the turquoise banquette, exhaling. I owe you an apology, she began, voice earnest. That brunch was harsh. I wanted to shock you out of inertia, but I went too far, and I hurt you. I reached across the table, covering her hand. I felt it, but I understand why. You saw what I could be, and you pushed me. I needed the wake-up call. She nodded, tears sparkling. I'm sorry I didn't frame it better, and I'm sorry I doubted the quiet moments that built your brand. I smiled. The quiet moments are the heart of EcoThread. Without them, there's no authenticity. She beamed. You've taught me that authenticity. And now I want to teach you something. She opened her portfolio, revealing a thick sheaf of papers. This is my first project plan for Astra. They asked me to outline a sustainability initiative for their packaging design. Guess who I modeled the framework after? She slid it across. At the top, the header read, Inspired by EcoThread, Circular Design Roadmap. Beneath it, line items detailing life cycle assessments, community design workshops, zero-waste supply chains, all mirroring the principles I'd honed for my tote line. I swallowed, heart fluttering. You're applying my methodology. She nodded. Your side project showed them I understood actionable impact. They want me to lead this roadmap. I couldn't have done it without your blueprint. My chest tightened, pride and gratitude swelling. I'm honored. She laughed, tears away. Promise me I'll never be forgettable to you again. I grinned. Only if I ever forget the breath of cherry blossoms in spring. Over unhurried courses of avocado toast and chai lattes, we plotted the next steps. She would start at Astra Monday. I would fine-tune the EcoThread Pro wholesale pitch for boutique partners. We brainstormed a collaborative workshop, Elena's first week on the job, to introduce Astra's design team to circular principles, co-facilitated by EcoThread. If that landed, it could spark a major contract and raise my brand's profile. Our conversation wove through laughter and shared memories, remembering college nights spent sketching logos in the dorm, lamenting the one-minute video that had gone viral, marveling at how far we'd come since those crowded lecture halls. At one point, I glanced at her, no longer the brusque brunch critic, but the friend who used my story to forge her own success. When the plates were cleared, Elena turned serious. Alex, I feel like we're crossing a new threshold. Our paths have always been parallel, but now they're intertwined. I nodded, heart brimming. We're better together. Your voice on the Astra stage, my designs in the world. It's a partnership I never expected, but I've always wanted. She reached across, fingers brushing mine. To new beginnings. I raised my latte in a mock toast. To being unforgettable. The next morning, I walked into my studio with a spring in my step. The EcoThread Pro pitch deck glowed on my desk, updated with Astra branding elements. I slid open my laptop, rehearsed my presentation one last time, then paused to call Elena before the chaos of her first day. Good morning, head of circular design, I teased. She laughed, her voice crackling with excitement. Good morning, eco-innovator. Ready to show Astra what we can do, I exhaled. Let's do it. We agreed to meet that evening for a debrief, then hung up. I felt something shift, a synergy of two careers that had once been separate. Now we buoyed each other. She emboldened by my resilience. I inspired by her boldness. Monday afternoon, I dialed into a video call with the boutique consortium I'd been courting. Usually, such meetings felt nerve-wracking, but today I had a secret weapon, Elena's endorsement. I opened the call with a slide titled Eco-Thread X Astra, Circular Design in Action. Moments later, Elena's face appeared in a corner box. She waved. Hi everyone. I'm Elena Rodriguez, Senior Designer at Astra Creative. I want to introduce you to our partners at EcoThread, one of the most innovative minds in sustainable fashion. The consortium's eyes lit up as I guided them through the joint workshop plan, hands-on sessions, prototyping challenges, supply chain audits. They peppered Elena with questions about Astra's commitment and EcoThread's role. She spoke eloquently, referencing my community engagement model, while I showcased the tote samples and fabric swatches. 45 minutes later, the feedback was overwhelmingly positive. 3 consortia pledged pilot programs, 2 offered speaking slots at industry panels, 1 invited us to co-author a white paper on circular textiles. I closed the call thinking, we did it, together. That evening, Elena and I convened at my studio, 2 mugs of tea on the drafting table, strewn with paper prototypes and textile samples. We celebrated with quiet exhilaration, her first major corporate partnership, my brand's breakthrough into wholesale. Then she grinned, leaning in. I wanted to show you something. She reached into her bag and drew out a slim envelope. In careful script, it read, "For Alexandra, the most unforgettable inspiration." Inside was an invitation, a weekend retreat hosted by Astra's new sustainability unit, an invitation extended to just 3 external partners. I was one of them. I blinked, stunned. Elena, this is for me? She nodded, tears glinting. You called me forgettable once. Now I want you to be unforgettably valued. I pressed the invitation to my heart. I don't know what to say. Say you'll join us. She nudged the envelope forward. Say yes. I laughed, voice thick. Yes. 1,000 times yes. Later that night, I curled up in my armchair, cradling the invitation and sipping Earl Grey. Outside, the city lights blinked like distant constellations. I reflected on our journey, the bruising brunch critique, Elena's bold interview confession, our collaborative triumphs. It had been a roller coaster of friendship, challenge, and mutual uplift. I tapped a quick message to her. Thank you for choosing me. I'm honored to stand beside you. Her reply came almost instantly. Always. Here's to being unforgettable together. I smiled, setting my phone aside. The story we'd begun writing, 2 friends turned collaborators, was just unfolding. Part 1 had been the sting of forgettable. Part 2 was the radiant echo of inspiration given back. And with that, I drifted off, dreaming of cherry blossoms, sustainable designs, and the next chapter of an unforgettable partnership.